I am Gene Dinkins Jr. I serve as chair for the board, and I'll be serving as chair for today's meeting. At this time, I'd like to introduce the other members of the board. To my left is Marcellus Primus. To my right is Catherine Finner, John Ginyard, and Celia McIntosh. Okay, we'd also like to introduce the staff that assists the board. We've got Hope Hasty, the zoning administrator, Erica Hyen, deputy zoning administrator, and Sky Robinson Barnes. The board is charged with hearing applications for special exceptions, variances, and administrative appeals. All testimony is recorded for the record, and anyone wishing to speak will need to be sworn in and come to the podium to speak. No testimony can be taken from the floor. When you come to the podium, please state your name and please speak clearly into the microphone because this meeting is being recorded. Applicants with cases before the board are allotted a presentation time of 10 minutes. This time does not include any questions asked by the board or staff regarding the case. Any member of the public may address the board in intervals of 3 minutes or 5 minutes if by a spokesperson for an established body or group of 3 or more. The applicant then has 5 minutes for rebuttal. The board reserves the right to amend these procedures on a case-by-case basis. All right, those of you who plan to speak must be sworn. So if you're here as an applicant or here to speak in any case, please stand at this time and raise your right hand. Yeah, again, if you're an applicant or would like to speak in any case, please stand at this time. Okay. Do you affirm or attest that the testimony you will give today is the truth and nothing but the truth? Okay, thank you. All right, at this time, we'll turn the meeting over to staff.
Good afternoon. We'll start with the consent agenda. And the first item on the consent agenda is the approval of the June 2nd, 2022 minutes. Next item on the consent agenda is 3619 Duncan Street. It is 2022-0024V, variance to the side yard setback standard for an addition. The second item on the consent agenda is 2022-0025SE, 1326 Bush River Road. It's a special exception request to permit a warehouse use. And the third item on the consent agenda, or the fourth item, sorry, is 2022-0026V, 1716 Ogden Street. It's a variance request to the maximum fence height standard. And at this time, would anyone like to remove a case from the consent agenda?
And I'll add that goes for the public as well.
Yes.
All right, don't see any, so at this time, let me ask for a motion, please.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda subject to staff comments.
Thank you. All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, very good. Motion passes.
Okay, moving to the regular agenda. We only have one item on the regular agenda this afternoon. It's 2022-0027SE, 2312 Liberty Street, and it's a request for a special exception to establish a daycare facility. And the applicant is here to speak.
Okay.
Hello.
Hey, good afternoon. Please state your name. Yes.
Yes, my name is Tanetta Thomas, and we are wanting to start a daycare center at 2312 Liberty Street. It's a family-owned property. It will be fully regulated by DSS. They have to approve everything that goes on, from how many kids allowed, the structure of the inside, the structure of the outside, the playground, the parking, everything is regulated by DSS. It will only be from the hours of about 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., Monday through Friday, no weekends. The children will only be in the backyard, nobody in the front yard. Parking, it's already like a two-car parking garage there, or parking carport. We plan on removing that carport and the tree next to it to extend that for employee parking. As far as drop-off and pickup, they'll be able to park behind employee cars as well as right in front there. It'll just be like quick 2-minute drop-off or pickup. There is a speed bump like right outside of the fence. So traffic is fairly slow during, at that area. And yeah, it'll be safe. I don't know what else to say.
Okay, well, thank you for coming, and thank you for your testimony. So the application has 13 criteria which we're asked to judge the case on. In fact, we can only grant approval for the special exception if it's been proved that we can meet these criteria. So I didn't see as a part of the packet where you answered these questions. Is it included, Hope? Do you know, have you seen the answers?
I don't have specific answers to the criteria.
To the
no.
criteria. So we need those in order to move forward, because again, that's what we're asked. So I guess we have two options. We could talk about them now. You could run through them. We don't have to read the questions. You could just go 1 through 13. Or if you need more time to think about it, we could defer the case until next month and you could
I looked
submit
at
it.
it.
But very good.
I
Okay.
didn't know that you
Certainly,
had to.
we have to have that because those are the criteria that we're asked to judge the case based upon. So we have to have answers to these. So.
So, I signed, I thought my signature was
Sure.
saying that.
If you look closely, it says on a separate piece of paper, please describe how the proposed use complies. So we just ask you, if you just start with,
Number
you
one.
can just say number one and just give us a couple of sentence paragraph as ammunition, if you will, for why we should approve this special exception request.
So I guess as long as you guys approve it, it will be in compliance with the zoning district. That's up to you guys, I believe. Number two, the complies with all applicable use-specific standard in Article 4. It'll all be regulated by DSS, so if that's under the use regulations, then it won't be messing with any neighbors. As far as the traffic at number 3, it'll be very, like I said, slow traffic. It's staggered drop off and pick up because it's as the parents go to work or get off work. Number 4, adequate provisions are made for parking. I told you guys that we'll be expanding the parking area. Number 5, substantial adverse, there will be no noise, lights, maybe children playing in the backyard at allotted times. I can provide the neighborhood with my schedule at that time if anybody wants that, to know exactly when the kids will be outside. And they'll only be in the backyard. It's a commercial property right behind this property, so it won't be interfering with residential neighbors. Where were we? Number 6, the aesthetic character of the area. Yeah, if anything, it'll improve the aesthetic
That's
character of the area because we'll be repainting the outside and, making it look as nice as possible for a business there. So it'll be improvements to there. The proposed impact on public safety. There will be no nuisance. It'll just, everything will be indoors except for outside play. It'll only be a few employees, myself and about 2 or 3 other employees, so it's not like a huge facility. DSS, they have to measure the square footage of the home as well as the rooms inside, and they'll give us an allotted number of students that we'll be able to accept. So it won't be 20 plus, that is not allowed. Where were we? Number 8, which does not create concentration or proliferation of same special exceptions. Yeah, it won't be detrimental to the, like I said, if anything, it'll be an improvement to the neighborhood. The proposed special exceptions. Zoning, again, that's all up to you, up to you all. Appropriate for its location. I believe it's appropriate. I believe it'll be an asset to the neighborhood. There's a lot of kids in that neighborhood, and, you know, anything that we can do to help the community once it started will be, you know, we'll be willing to do that as far as, you know, even during the summer times, if we have abundance of food, because the meals are provided, they have grants and stuff provided by the state and government. So if we have an abundance of food and the neighborhood children or anybody in the neighborhood needs it, we'll be supplying that instead of throwing it away, you know. Let's see. Compatible with general character of the district. It's definitely compatible with the character. It will not have an adverse impact on land values. If anything, because the commercial property is there, it'll increase their assets and the properties of their homes. The proposed special exception will not adversely affect, and I would hope it doesn't adversely affect the public interest. We are looking to help the community, not bring it down in any way. We want to provide childcare for a neighborhood that it does not have a lot of childcare in that neighborhood. It's a church daycare like around the corner, but it's no small daycares in that area. So it's like, you know, so we want to help as much as possible. We don't want to cause trouble for anyone.
Well, thank you for running through those. I know it's kind of a pain, but we have to get those on
Oh, I
record. because
understand.
Those are the criteria
Okay.
that we're asked to judge the case on. So I appreciate you taking the time and giving us your thoughtful answers. Thank you very much. So at this time, let's ask some questions. Any specific questions for the applicant? Celia?
I mean, the obvious question is definitely the number of children that you would have, which equates to the number of cars, because that's usually the biggest sticking point is, you know, somebody isn't thoughtful and blocks the neighbor's driveway, and that's where, you know.
Right. So this property, it has a long fenced-in area, so it won't be blocking neighbors' driveway at all. As far as the exact number of children, unfortunately, this is the first step for DSS before they come out and do anything, so they haven't measured, so I can't give you an exact number of children, but I would say a minimum of 13 and a maximum of about 20, 21 kids, and it'll be a staggered drop-off time, so it'll be parents come in at different times. It'll never be like a backup of traffic. Did that answer? Daycare? No, none in the neighborhood at all. Like I said, the church, there's a church, they provide daycare for that area, but it's not on the same road, it's not in the neighborhood directly, but it's not far. But there's no small, like, in-home daycares or anything in the area. And I surveyed the neighbors on Liberty Street, going all the way on this specific street and up past the stop sign, and most neighbors are okay with it. I did get a one rebuttal, and she said that she didn't think it was safe because of traffic, and she believes there should be a sidewalk there, but the children, they won't be in the front at all. And I believe a sidewalk there would be more of a hindrance. If you're talking about the cars and stuff, I think that would, be an adverse effect as more than a positive effect. But like I said, the children will all be in the backyard at times of play, and outside of times of play, they'll be inside the home.
Looking at the pictures we've got of the site, and so in the, right on Liberty Street, what is that where there's a tree?
Ma'am?
There's a light-colored thing, is that a parking area, or what is that?
Oh, right,
Is
yes,
that the
ma'am.
carport?
That's
that-
the parking, that's the parking that
That's
is
the carport you're
now.
talking
And then
about.
we're gonna even expand that more.
I
So,
see.
yeah, because it's like that parking area, it already fits 2 cars there, but it's a carport. Without that carport, another car can even get there. So we plan to remove that carport so that it'll be enough room for all employees to park inside the yard. So employees won't have to park on the street at all.
Will there be enough room for people to pull off the road to drop their children off?
Yes, ma'am. So they'll be able to come all the way up, and then the cars can park behind the employees' cars as well.
Oh, okay, okay.
What else? What ages are the children that you anticipate,
From 1 to 4.
1 to 4? Do you have a fenced-in yard here?
Yes, yes, sir.
good.
It's completely fenced in,
Okay,
and
good.
then we plan to put a privacy fence on the back as well.
Okay, good.
What is the business behind you?
It's nothing. It's like, it was an old car wash or something, so now it's just a vacant lot or land.
Do you have staff identified already, or,
Yes.
and how many do you propose you think you'll need?
So it'll be myself and at least 2 other teachers, and then there'll be a director. So there'll be about 4 staff. The director, she's been working in childcare for 20-plus years. She's an older woman, and so she has lots of experience, and she'll be working hand in hand with myself. But I could be the director, but I'd rather be hands-on with the children, at least for the start. So I'll hire her to come on to oversee things, because I don't want to be double booked trying to teach and oversee.
Have you ever done this before?
Work with children, or
What, just,
I haven't owned a daycare before, but I've worked with children for a long time. I have a psychology degree, so I did a lot of child psych concentration while I was in school, and then all of my internships was with children, from working with children with autism to disadvantaged youth in their neighborhoods. And since then, I was a director over after-school program with Big Blue Marble right before COVID. I've worked at my church daycare, children's church type thing. And so, yeah, so I've been working with children a long time. That's where my heart is.
sounds like you've been preparing for this for your whole life, really.
Yeah.
That's good. Okay, any other questions for the applicant? All right, thank you very much for your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, at this time, we'd like to move into the public input portion of the application. Or would any members for the public like to speak on behalf of this matter? Okay, please approach. Hey,
Robertson. I live at 2315 Liberty Street. That's right in front of the house that she was
Okay.
talking about. I've been living there for 20 years. Throughout my 20 years, you're going down a hill. There's no bump till you get all the way down to where the stop sign at. That's where the bump at. Up the hill, it's no bump, but on the next block, it's a bump. So I have noticed throughout my years there, people they come down that hill, it's a hill, they flying down that hill. My problem is the hill. You know, that's a dangerous hill. I have noticed people hit people's houses on that hill a couple of times, then I hit people's cars on that hill. I have noticed people hit people on that hill. It is very, she's gonna be on the right-hand side. I'm on the left-hand side. They coming down that hill, and they actually flying down the hill. When they hit that bump, they go up. And I have noticed that so many times. That's a danger area to even have kids getting out. And when she's saying that the parking space, it's only 2 cars can get up there in that parking space, and the half of it's gonna be on the grass. 1 car gonna be on the grass of it. You know, it's not a big parking space area. It's where the house at, you're gonna have a small parking space area. You're gonna have a car there and another car, but it's not like a lot of cars can get up in there. It's just 2 cars maybe. And then the rest of it gonna be on the street. You know, and that hill is very dangerous. It's no parking space at all. What she gonna do to improve the house, improve the yard? I don't know, but it's gonna take a lot to improve the house and the yard, you know, a lot. So that's what I want to say.
okay. Well, thank you for your
And I think
testimony.
that's too dangerous when it involves kids. You know, that's my opinion with kids and being involved. Because, you know, either somebody might be letting somebody out up there at the garage, somebody might have their child on the street trying to get out, you know, and cars coming down. That's just dangerous.
Okay. Well, thank you for your testimony. Appreciate that. Anybody else?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm Leon Corley. I live in the Colonial Heights neighborhood, and my wife and I, we purchased our home there in 1966.
Wow.
We're long-term homeowners. And when we moved there, most all of the residents that lived there was homeowners. But you know, some folk transition and things of that sort. We're still there. Now, I think this daycare center will be detrimental to our community. The reason I say that, Ms. Shirley just, elaborate on the speed on the hill on Liberty Street. Speed hump down in there, stop sign, and they run that a lot of times. And let me tell you what happens on Liberty Street. If you're coming from Will Street, going toward 77, Outfall Road, when you cross Beltline, you can't make a left turn on Marshall Street. So it's going to take you down to Liberty Street. So that's where the traffic goes now, on Liberty Street. And we have no control over that. Even though we have the speed hump, and we fought 20-some years to get speed humps. And we only had them probably 5 years. And a lot of cars disregard that. And so Liberty Street is a cut-through street. Cut-through street. So we have a lot of traffic, cars cutting through, you see. And when talk about parking for the daycare center, like Ms. Shirley said, there's a hill, we're in the flat, they're going to end up parking side of the street, side of the road, and there's not enough space to get the automobile completely out of the road. That is an accident waiting to happen if that's located there. And also, as we deal with that and the speeding cars through there, the community does not support this special exemption, not the other Valier City Council person. When you get special exemption, if they get that, they can make any kind of changes. And your neighborhood would have no say-so what happens. And so we kind of dealt with the parking. The parking is not sufficient, and you got to park beside the road, and you can't get completely out of the road. Now, they're going to discharge or pick up children. That's not safe. That's not safe. I wouldn't want my child, sitting in that facility with no more provision made than that. And the fencing, the place is in disrepair now. Now, if I were coming before you all, City Council, for exemption, first of all, I would clean the place up so I can have the support of my neighborhood, of the neighborhood. That has not happened. It's in terrible shape. It's in terrible shape. And we believe there's not enough space provided for those children to make a safe discharge, a safe entrance to their car when the family comes and pick them up. So there will be an increase in noise. All that I just said earlier as well would be a disaster to our neighborhood.
Okay.
I don't want to sit up here all afternoon,
Yep.
but the neighborhood do not support
Okay.
this happening in our neighborhood.
Well, thank you for your testimony. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Councilman Ed McDowell, and of course, the subject matter that we're talking about today is in my district. And of course, one of the things that I do when there are issues, whether it's zoning or any other issues, what I try to do is to visit every one of the sites just to make sure that things are in order. What I had an opportunity to do was to visit 2312 Liberty Street, And of course, I came in off of Colonial Drive. And of course, as you know, that runs up to the stop sign to Farrow Road. One of the things I decided to do was to not only look at the topography of the property, but also to see what kind of traffic was going through that piece, through Liberty Street, either coming from Colonial to Farrow or Farrow to Colonial. And I observed that there were an inordinate number of cars going through there. One of the things that I also observed at the property is that it sits in a dip. And of course, it would not allow, in my estimation, a number of cars to come on whether or not you're handing off kids into the center, creating a log jam. If you're coming off Colonial this way and you stop there, there is a gated area there. There is a vacant lot on the back side. There is a large seating steps going straight up. It just does not seem like a way and a conducive way to bring children into an environment where there may be some harm, perhaps, to take place. Now, please understand this note. We're all open for business, and we love small businesses, no question about it. But we do not want to put our children in perhaps a situation where harm could possibly occur on that street. There are no sidewalks there on either side. There's one speed hump at the very end of that street. I don't see any obvious parking there. So as I support the Colonial Heights community in their resistance to this project. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Okay, go ahead. Ask him to approach.
Councilman McDowell, I have a question for you, if you wouldn't mind. So we've heard from the applicant that she's going to demolish some stuff in the front yard. And that would, and she's not doing it yet because she doesn't have the approvals, right? So it's the chicken and egg problem, as you can imagine. Now, when you were over there looking at the site, did you see, she demolished that carport in the front, would that not give enough room? She said, her testimony is that it would be giving enough room.
In my estimation, and I'm not an architect of any sort, but just in my rudimentary estimate, it would not give enough space for safety purposes.
Are there any traffic calming measures that you, as the city council person, could recommend to slow? It sounds like this is a pretty bad cut through just in general.
Well, one of the things, of course, this is an exception. This is not in our wheelhouse. If it was a change in the zoning issues, it would be in our wheelhouse.
Sure.
We would probably look at some, and I think the basic criteria, that the questions that you asked, of course, it would certainly be good to see those in written form, just to make sure and to ensure, if it were a zoning issues, to make sure that we looked at those issues and we looked at them forensically to make sure that we were doing the right thing.
So if I hear you correctly, the biggest concern you have is the concerns are traffic and parking.
Well, traffic and parking and the safety of kids. I heard the applicant say that there are a lot of kids there with one speed hump there, and that's at the very end of the street. I find it a little bothersome, especially if you're coming off of Colonial, because it sort of does this as you approach the property. it could very well involve a traffic jam there, unloading kids into the proposed center, I think.
But if it is possible, I mean, I don't know, I haven't seen the site, and I don't have a really good site plan to look at. If it were possible for all of the unloading and loading and unloading to happen off the street, then I guess that throws it back to you as a city council person to propose any traffic calming to just slow down the general flow of traffic through there. Would that not be?
Yeah, well, one of the things that I would critically ask is that engineers come out and look at that piece of property to see topographically if it's the right gauge in terms of coming off of the Colonial Drive side. Because when you come off the Farrow Road side, it's relatively kind of goes up like this. Colonial Drive drops down. In my estimate, the persons who live in that area know this better than I, of course, because they've been residents there. But if it was in my preview, of course, I'm siding with the residents.
Well, we do have an email that we got with a petition signed by how many? I don't have it in front of me. How many were there who signed the petition? 5 or 6 residents of Liberty Street who do support the project.
Would I support it?
No, there are 5 or 6 residents who sent us we got an email petition. A letter in support signed by 5 or 6 of the residents of the area who just aren't here today.
On Liberty Street?
On Liberty Street,
Let's be
correct.
careful not to get into board discussion.
Yeah.
Yes, Councilman
Sure.
McDowell.
I'm just trying to get enough
But I
information
understand
here.
what you're saying.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. All right, well, appreciate your testimony very
Any
much,
other-
and appreciate
thank
you attending the
Thank
meeting
you.
today. Thank you. Okay. Anybody else like to speak?
And she said they had about 5 that signed the petition. I just wanted to show you the ones that we have to sign against it. On Liberty Street, and we have High Street that's in that area, and we also have Adams Street in that area. And would you like to see?
Yes, this is very, very, very important. Please give them to Hope. Thank you. So, Hope, you were not aware of these until just now? Okay.
No.
I think we need to make sure these are part of the record. Someone can summarize for the record what's in there after we get a chance to look at them. In fact, maybe the more appropriate thing would be to give them to Hope and let you look at them for us and just tell us briefly what's in there so we don't all look at them and so we
Yeah.
get a feel for how many.
Do you want me to read through them?
I don't know
or-
about read through them, but if you could just glance
Tally
at
them?
them, that's
Tally
that's
them?
right.
Tally
Okay.
the pro and con?
That way
or-
we get it on the record and
Okay.
and everyone understands.
Yeah.
Because this is very important. Thank you. No, not from the floor. Hang on one second, okay? Okay, so again, just for the record, we've received at least a few members of the public who have signed petitions in opposition of this request. So we're asking the zoning administrator to sort of tally them up for us so it becomes a matter of the record and to let us know what we've got here because none of us has seen this until just a second ago.
So it looks like 10 residents on Liberty Street
Okay?
In opposition.
in opposition. Four on Adams Street. 11 on Height Street.
Okay. Thank you, Hope. I think that's very important. Okay, would any other members of the public like to speak on this matter? Please approach. All right, you've already spoken, hadn't you? All right, we'll give you just a second, okay? Give us, no, you go ahead, but I just mean, no, please approach the podium. No, yes. I'm just pointing out that you've already had your time, so we want to be respectful. You came today, so just make it brief, please.
It's very,
Okay, go ahead.
very quick. What I want to say that where I live at, coming down here, and I live on the left-hand side, my house is like a slump down the hill way. And for me to get out my driveway, most of the time I park my car going down. So actually I have to back my car up, and I have to watch cars behind me to make sure they're not coming and going. And for the kids to be out, and they letting kids out on the side, I'm just letting you know, it's actually down the hill,
Okay,
and the house is going down the hill.
thank you. Appreciate your time. Thank you for coming today. Okay, do we have any other members of the public who'd like to speak on this matter? All right, I don't see any, so at this time, the applicant, you have 5 minutes or so for rebuttal. If you'd like to approach and respond to some of these comments, the floor is yours.
So it sounds like to me that most of the issues is coming with the traffic and the parking. But if all of these community members, all of these neighbors have the same concern, then it seems to me that they would just slow down going through that area, because it's only going to be drop off. And like I said, it will be in the yard. Once we remove that carport and the tree, it will be enough for employees to park and people to park behind. But, it does take a village, so if this village that opposed would just slow down, I don't see a problem outside of that, because like I said, everything else would be in the home and in the backyard. So that's all I have.
One thought I had as we were listening to the testimony, most of it against this proposed special exception, if you had some sort of a site plan showing us what you propose to do, it might help prove to the neighborhood that you could contain the children within the property and that you could park the children within the property, because really, we're just looking at a, overhead aerial photo, and though we believe your testimony, it would be nice to see it on some sort of a plan. Have you given any thought to that?
I have, because that's a requirement actually of DSS. But like I said, zoning was just step one. But once I submit my application to start this child care center, we actually have to have an architectural plan to submit to DSS of everything, changes that would have to be made on the property. So that's a part of starting this daycare, actually.
Understood, but it may be that would help you
Get the zoning.
get through a special exception request, because they do bring up some valid points. I mean, from the testimony that I've heard today, I myself am not sure that the site does work. But I think if you could show us a plan that showed how you plan to contain these children on the site and how to park and to back up and to keep them out of the roadway, because you're right, these traffic issues, they exist whether you're here or not, okay? But at the same time, you are here. And so if we had a plan showing the carport to be demolished and a few spaces striped in front of the property, it would probably help your cause. I don't know that we have to have that, but it would help. Absolutely.
So you could defer right now if you wanted to, and then come back to us with that site plan that would show us, I think.
Yeah, and my question, it really is, if you extend that parking area, then it's still cars after drop-off, I'm assuming backing back out onto Liberty, which with it being a cut-through, I'm concerned that's going to create a traffic issue, which is one of the potential issues. But if you had some sort of site plan that showed some sort of circular drop-off or something like that, then maybe it's a less of a...
Yeah, I don't think it'll be able to make a roundabout because it's like it is a yard space outside of the parking area. But I mean, I'm okay with, if it's not here, then, God will lead me elsewhere. So I'm not, it's for the community. So if they're opposed to it, then, there's nothing I can do, it's all in God's hands. So I understand, like I said, we can do everything we can to make it as safe, but ultimately it would depend on public and, how people choose to abide by the speed limits on that road. And that's something that no matter what we do, we can't control. So,
All right, so let's just to be clear then, okay, so you really don't want to go that option with maybe, making a site plan and bringing that back?
I can, but it just sounds like, I know that for a fact that there's no way we'll be able to do a roundabout. So even with extending.
I don't know that you have to have necessarily a roundabout, but John brings up a good point. Criteria number 3 is the proposed special exception will not have a substantial adverse impact on vehicular traffic or vehicular and pedestrian safety. So
Right.
John brings up a point. If you can't prove to us that they can't drop off the cars without doing some sort of a backup into the roadway, I do think we would have to all agree that is a substantial adverse impact on pedestrian and vehicular safety.
But if somebody lived there, and we did live there at one point, we had the backup
Yeah,
out into
but
the.
I think the difference here is you living there with a residential use, which is a normal, maybe you go to work, maybe you go to the grocery store, a couple times a day versus running a daycare facility with potentially 20 children coming there. I think that's a big increase, and I think that's one of the reasons why in a residential zone area like this, you have to have a special exception to do a more intensive use like this. So, but we will discuss it. Is there anything else you'd like to say? Certainly appreciate your testimony and thoughts.
I have a question. So if they were to park, when they come in, if they were to park sideways, if you could give me suggestions on
that's
how.
well, right, very good. That's what you would hire either an architect or a
architect.
civil engineer or someone to help you with. We're not even necessarily looking for an engineered plan or an architectural plan. It doesn't have to be stamped, sealed, signed.
Right.
But I just think for the purposes of this discussion, it would help your case an awful lot if you could prove to us some of these concerns of the neighborhood, that you had an idea how to mitigate them, rather than just, well, I'm going to keep everyone in there and we're going to pull into the carport. I'm not sure that's good enough.
I think what I would like to see is a drawing, can be pretty crude, but kind of drawn to scale, that shows the striping for how many parking spaces you're going to have, and where people would drop things off, and if it'd be possible for them to come back out somehow, heading out, nose out instead of backing out, if that's something that's a possibility. That's what I would want to see.
So we'll just leave it to you. So here's where we are right now. We can discuss this as a board and we can vote and we'll see what happens. We don't know. We'll see what happens. Or you could defer it and take some time to try to think about how you might be able to do some things to the site to handle some of the neighborhood and board members' concerns. It's up to you.
So either you guys vote now or we defer. and-
Or give you more time to work on it and come back to us at another date when you're, let's just call it, a little more ready. And, that's no guarantee. Sometimes it may not work. It just might not be a site for it.
Right.
But just we've seen a lot of these cases, just wanted to give you the option. If you need more time to think about this, you're welcome to it, or we can discuss it and vote today. It's your call.
Okay, so one question before I answer. If I was to defer, you guys are looking for the slotted parking spaces as well as a way for parents to drop off and leave out without having to back up?
I think you need some,
That's pretty specific. All we're looking for is some sort of argument that it will not have an adverse impact on vehicular traffic or pedestrian safety.
And that adequate provisions are made for parking and loading and unloading.
But we don't know exactly how that would be achieved. We're just saying that.
However you have to do it, but we don't have any real clear idea right now of whether or not you've done that, whether or not that's possible.
Right, and that's what I don't know.
I think it's pretty clear she hadn't, but,
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so,
so, anyway, but choice is yours.
okay. I guess more time is
Okay.
better.
All right, that sounds good. All right, Well, thank you very much. Well, we will skip the board discussion, and I'd like to make a motion that we defer this case until the applicant presents more material for us to look at it in further detail.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good luck with it. Okay. Anything else today?
That's all for today.
All right. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion second. All those in favor, flip to the aye.
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 On with that. Very good.